Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my next Legacy of Yangchen chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 6, Coming to the Table. So this is a direct follow-up chapter to the previous one, so we're getting straight down into kind of talking, discussion between Yangchen, Kavik and Ayunarak. So Yangchen of course has basically issues with both Ayunarak and Kavik from the kind of previous book. Of course, we know Yangchen and Ayunarak don't like each other. Their approaches are just very different. And of course, there's the more personal betrayal to address between Yangchen and Kavik because of Kavik making the decisions that he did towards the end of the first book. So we're addressing all of that here in a very, very character-focused chapter. So let's jump in. So we first establish where this is taking place in this book, and that is that it is in a private home somewhere in the Northern Water Tribe. Kavik is unaware if this is like an Avatar kind of safe house type area or if it's a White Lotus one, because Yangchen and Ayunarak both seem like equally comfortable here as if it is their own safe house, but he's very unclear about like who actually has organized this kind of place. So yeah, these two really don't want to start talking to each other. They know it's just going to be an argument. So he kind of kicks things off. He breaks the ice. Does anyone want to explain the fog? And Yangchen says, it's a spirit, invades the minds of people, forces captives to relive their pasts. And she says, lucky for me, I have too many pasts, too many worse days of too many lives. I might have glutted it and been spat back out into the physical world. And so she is forced to explain here that what I was doing was trying to get someone out who was trapped in there to free them from their suffering. And Ayunarak, of course, gets straight down to kind of the more business aspect of it, of just like, and was that single soul worth the life of the Avatar? And that, of course, infuriates Yangchen. So their dynamic is exactly the same as from the first book. They just don't get on. So Yangchen turns her attentions to Kavik and is like, so you've joined the Order of the White Lotus. Great, in a way. Like, it's not a question. It's like, explain this, basically. And he's like, I had no other choice. I was being hunted down. The Order of the White Lotus were the only ones who would, help me. They got my parents out. They're protecting me. But he's very honest here. He's like, the only thing I had to exchange for this protection was the information I had on unanimity. So yes, I have told them every single thing that I know about this in order to protect them. Yangchen is understanding of this, and in a way because she feels very similarly, because she's like, oh yeah, I did the same thing once, thinking the White Lotus could be trusted to keep a secret for the greater good, but she goes straight for it here. Instead, they leaked information about unanimity to the Earth King. Ayunarak says it's a baseless accusation and a violation of our sacred vows of neutrality. And she's just like, then why is he suddenly very confident it was a weapon? It's that your organization is either corrupt or incompetent. Which is it? She says they'll investigate what happened, and fires back like, we know you're not corrupt. She does say, thank you for saving my life, addressing the end of the previous chapter. But she's ready to end it right here. Again, the tensions between these two is not great. So she's kind of like, I've got a bit of a chaotic situation to deal with here. The tensions rising between the nations. I've got to leave. And she does lay one on Kavik here, as she kind of says, everyone here is partially to blame for it, some more than others, of course. Kavik, because the only reason any information about unanimity got out there in the first place was because of Kavik's betrayal, preventing the complete shutdown of it even happening. And then, of course, she's now blaming Ayunarak for the Order of the White Lotus kind of leaking, it seems like, more detailed information about it more recently. So that's the whole situation. But they're like, we are here to talk. Finding you, saving you in the Spirit Oasis was not part of the plan, but we did need to find you to talk. And Ayunarak just gets straight down to business. Take the kid back. And everyone's just like, wait, what? Another trade. The White Lotus wants one of our own, posted by your side, and Kavik is a known quantity to both of us. In return for letting him travel with you again, we'll help you end the Platinum Affair. That's your ultimate goal, no? Restoring peaceful relations between the four nations. And she's like, it was my goal, but at this rate, in a way, will there be any cities left to save? And Kavik is just kind of like, whoa, 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 they're talking about super heavy things, and that Yangchen isn't just like trying to improve the city, she actually wants to go back to the very core start of this and kind of heal the world by stopping the Platinum Affair and healing the nations on that level. Like, she's thinking super broad picture, and the fact that a Unarak is on the same kind of level thinking about it is kind of surprising to Kavik, who's more on the immediate details at the moment. But she points out, Unarak, it's not too late to work in concert. We'll speak peace into the ears of Chief Oiluk and Lord Gonryu while you do what you can with Feishan. And this, to Yangchen, is just like, gotcha, you admitted it. Call it a hunch, but I have a distinct feeling that the last time the White Lotus tried to influence world rulers through secret whispers, it didn't go so well. Referencing the fact that the previous chapters have effectively all but told us that the White Lotus effectively made the Platinum Affair happen in the first place. So a Unarak effectively saying, we can directly influence the world leaders to end the Platinum Affair, it kind of confirms that it was possible. It makes sense how the first bit can actually happen. So still not going great between these two, of course. And at this point, Kavik is like, yeah, these two need a break from each other. Can we talk alone? He says to Yangchen. And she's like, what makes you think you of all people can convince me to agree to this deal? And he's like, I can't. I just want to catch up. And so Yangchen ultimately agrees to this, mainly because she is just very eager to dismiss a Unarak. So she agrees to it just because of that. Immediately, Kavik is like, I'm sorry for everything. Letting the firebenders get away the first time, what happened even just recently in the Oasis, for betraying you, effectively. But to be super clear, you agreeing to this is agreeing to take a Order of the White Lotus spy on board. That is what I'm being asked to do if I'm to travel with you again. Are you okay with that? And she's like I know that that's what the situation here is. But he points out, is it so bad to have someone kind of looking out for you, watching over your shoulder in a way, because she was just put in a dangerous situation being here on her own? Yangchen's response is that, I value my freedom, basically quoting, I think, Kavik from the first book, who said something very similar about why he doesn't want to join Yangchen initially. But anyway, he then is like, okay, fine, that's not going to work, but can you at least tell me how our friends are doing? And so Yangchen is just like, really, you think I tell you anything about unanimity? But he's like, no, not the firebenders, you flying hog monkey, he calls her that. I mean our actual friends, Taigum, Akudan, Jujinta, are they well? Are they alive? Which again speaks to the idea he doesn't know where they are, if they're okay, he just wants to know. And so again, I think this is the right approach to writing Kavik here, is to be extremely remorseful for what happened and apologize as much as he can, but also focus on the other people as well. And it is addressed here immediately that, she points out that, they're fine, but they're not happy about having to lie low. Akudan and Taigum have had to leave Jandari, basically, because that's Chaisi's territory. They were in danger if they were going to stay there, and that just is too much of a risk to take, given that she's the one ultimately kind of over the top of all of this. So you cost them their home. That is the fact of the situation. So this is why he wants kind of back in. He needs to face them again, to apologize, hear what they have to say, because otherwise it's eating away at him not getting to see them. She kind of points out that, I could just give you a blessing of forgiveness and you could be on your way. But it's like, you could, but I don't want that. That's not what I'm asking for. And so then a Unarak kind of pokes her head back in. It's just like, narrowly avoided a patrol. Can we kind of hurry up and do this? Because we know the nations are kind of on the verge of, basically declaring war. It's only maybe a few days away. Also, this probably isn't going to, you're not going to like this one probably, but you kind of have to agree to take him back on as a companion, because if you don't, Oiluk's forces are probably just going to capture him again, because I don't really have an exit plan for him. I got him in here, but I literally don't have a way to get him back out securely. You're going to have to do that. So this is a thing to kind of force the hand of Yangchen, and she just notes that, yeah, that's some clever kind of Paisho general strategy. Prior to the battle, break the cooking pots, do something kind of outside the obvious game to influence the game itself, and that's what's happened here. The one of the final things Ayunarak says that kind of more hits home and sort of resolves the kind of issue here is, she says this: the Avatar will make faster progress ending the Platinum affair, and the White Lotus will get assurances from a source both sides know well. Our pride keeps us from cooperating, and that's an emotion only kings and fools can afford. Those of us who work from the shadows aren't supposed to make decisions out of pride. And this is what kind of forces the sort of reluctant kind of compromise acceptance of this deal here. They don't agree sort of out loud because it was sort of forced and coerced to a certain degree, but they both just settle to each sides of the room, and they kind of go to sleep, just reluctantly accepting that this is kind of what has actually happened here. So yeah, they're going to roughly work together, even though I think both sides are not super happy about the situation. But then we cut to, it's not the end of the chapter, we cut to 2 weeks earlier. And what we get here is effectively Kavik and Ayunarak planning their strategy for how they will approach the conversation with Yangchen. And in a way, the kind of truth of this, because the way it's gone so far, it's just kind of like, okay, Kavik will be the companion again. He'll feed information about what Yangchen is doing to the Order of the White Lotus. I know Yangchen is annoyed at both of these characters, but it doesn't seem like too bad just on the basis of what exactly was said. But then you'll almost like forget. You'll almost be kind of weird that you forgot about the whole idea of, like, even though they mentioned and in a way talked around unanimity, Ayunarak didn't specifically bring up the whole idea of, like, I know, Yangchen, that you know where unanimity is. Tell us. Like, that was not part of the discussion, because I think they knew, as this reveals here, they knew that the correct approach was not to kind of challenge Yangchen over, try to blackmail her effectively over that information. Instead, it's, let's play on the whole idea of, like, she wants to bring peace. We will work together to do that. You just have to get your companion back and roughly work with us. So that's what this 2 weeks earlier is about. They're of course discussing this strategy over Paisho. Kavik says the plan will never work. She's not as forgiving as you think. Ayunarak thinks it is a 3 in 10 chance of success. And what we basically get down to is that, like, the trick is that we're just going to be very open about it. We're just going to say we want a spy in the Avatar's group, and it's going to be you. We're going for persistence here, not cleverness. That eventually you two get on well. She's human. She will kind of crack. She will reveal something to you that will tell you where unanimity is, because that's ultimately what this is all about. The White Lotus want to know where unanimity is because they want to extract it from Yangchen's control. So this is the thing with Ayunarak, that she doesn't trust Yangchen enough to control something so important, but she believes the White Lotus can. And it's in a way, the arrogance of the fact that she and the Order of the White Lotus think they are the right ones to do this. That's the kind of, in a way, problem in all of this. And Ayunarak is even, like, quite blunt about it here. It's just like, she'll drop enough clues for you to fit it all together. Bright young man that you are, feel free to loosen her guard however you can. Give her that little pout and melt her heart if you have to. Once you have the information, get it to us immediately, and we will move in and extract them from the Avatar's control. And of course, Kavik isn't happy about this, because this is kind of what is confirming to us that this isn't just sort of, okay, things are roughly going back to normal, but he has this kind of weird dynamic where he just has to report back. This is like, oh no, they feigned being fully open about what they were doing, but now we see that there is actually a kind of hidden agenda here, and that this is actually a little bit of a repeat of the betrayal from the first book being set up here, except it is a Unarak kind of influencing Kavik here rather than Kalyan himself. But as we'll see, Kalyan is kind of involved, related to this deal, which we'll get to in just a second. But we get this. Do you really think the destructive power of that scale should remain under the control of an impetuous child? And Kavik is just thinking, like, I'm the same age as her, and you're relying on me to get the information that will take it from her. Like, what does that say about you, that you're using me in that way? And then Unarak says, the Avatar is right about one thing. The rulers of the four nations cannot get their hands on those benders. But neither does that mean that she can be trusted to make the final call on how to deal with them. Someone has to act with wisdom and foresight when the leaders of the world aren't up to the task. And Kavik, of course, is like, you? And she says, us, Kavik. You're inside now, as inside as it gets. The sooner we do this, the sooner we can focus on extracting your brother from Chaise's organization. And this is where the big kind of reveal comes out of, like, Kavik's price in all of this. So this is what makes it more of a kind of book one dynamic of, like, you're kind of worried, oh, is he going to make the same mistake as he did in the first book here, because he feels like he kind of has to pay back the White Lotus for protecting his family, and that this is the only way to save Kalyan again is to betray Yangchen in a way once more. Because that's the setup here of, like, if he leaks the information to the Order of the White Lotus that gets the unanimity taken away from her, this relationship, this friendship between them is completely done. And they're kind of referencing that here. He still feels the chances that she takes me back are worse than 3 in 10, more like slim to none. But she says, if she does cave, you'll have more of her forgiveness than you can think. Consider it from her perspective. What kind of monster would betray the Avatar twice? And that's an interesting dynamic, but it's also a little bit like, ooh, I'm not sure about that. That's not necessarily the dynamic I want over the course of this book, is just constantly thinking, like, ooh, what's Kavik going to do? It obviously offers an immediate opportunity for him to do the reverse of what he did in the first book, but I ultimately like the way the book goes about this, which is that I feel like the plot, in a way, gets in the way of this plot fully playing out in the way you kind of think it might. The plot, in a way, altering kind of Yangchen's control of unanimity, immediately makes it more of just, there we go. They are just free to interact together. So the more typical dynamic from the start of the chapter is actually more of the way it's actually kind of going to go, where, he will still relay information to the Order of the White Lotus, but Yangchen knows and has ultimately accepted that. What she hasn't accepted is the idea of, like, just flat out giving up unanimity to Owl here. But that gets ripped away shortly within a couple of chapters here. So, I love the way that this plays out. I actually really like the way they've characterized Kavik over the course of the book here. And it's the right approach, which is that, yes, Kavik has to make amends for something terrible he did in the first book, but it is not treated, I think, overly dramatically in the way that, like, there is a certain understanding to why, and the situation surrounding why he made the decision, in that it is not something that is just so bad that it is absolutely unforgivable. And I think they do that well here, where they're like, if he does the right things, he can make amends for this. And I think so far it's been the right approach, and adding in the extra layer of, like, him almost being forced to do the exact same thing again, but kind of as we see, and we've already seen in a way in the chapter. do you get the impression that he is super loyal to the Order of the White Lotus? That, like, okay, he wants his brother protected. That is ultimately a driving force for him, obviously. But beyond that, I don't particularly get the impression that he is super connected to the organization. I think, like, he cares about a Unirac to a certain degree, because they had the dynamic from before he knew she was Order of the White Lotus. But I think personal loyalty wise, he is probably more inclined to side with Yangchen on a lot of these matters over this specific organization based on what we've seen up to now. And I think they kind of play into that as kind of things goes on, that I think he values that dynamic with Yangchen more than the potential one he has here ultimately. But again, it's one of these ones that takes time and multiple chapters to get us to the right places that we need to go. And you know, he'll have a little bit of kind of, you know, suffering to do. Of course, all the characters get to take their shots in a way at him, as we'll see. But for now, they are going to work together again. And again, very efficient writing, but it's good. Like, it doesn't feel like, you just forced that situation to get these two characters kind of working as a team again. This was strongly written to get to this point. And now it's like, how will they work now that they have to work together, but there's this weird reporting to the Order of the White Lotus dynamic going on. But I think it's well done. So we'll pick this up in the next chapter. But for now, that's been chapter 6. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. But otherwise, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.